So good evening and welcome everyone. I am very happy to welcome you to tonight's event, Lebanese Histories. My name is Ilona Abdel Fattah and I am part of the collective Palestinian Histories, whose goal is to make Palestinian history, culture, music and poetry more visible in Vienna. But the history of Palestine does not end at the borders of Palestine itself. The country that is perhaps most closely connected to Palestine, both historically and in the present day, is Lebanon. Today's event was created in collaboration with Lebanese artists, individuals, organizations, and businesses. And I would like to take a moment to thank everyone involved. First of all, thank you, Ibrahim and Karin, for organizing the photo exhibition. I also want to thank Zahra Badawi. Where is she? Here. Zahra, who will not only speak tonight about her own story and about the history of her country and her family, but who also provided the culinary accompaniment for the exhibition through her boutique Urjuwan, together with Hassan Sha'ban, who is over here, as well as the table with Levantine embroidery work over there. I would also like to thank our other speakers, Bilal, Ramez and Dima, who agreed to share parts of their stories with us today. In a time when pain and anger are so immense, it is surely not easy to stand in front of an audience and talk about the homeland while the homeland is bleeding. So I really appreciate your effort, and I know that it's not easy, but thank you very much for sharing with us. And I want to thank Dima and Yasser for opening tonight with a poem. And a heartfelt thanks goes out also for our musician who will play a concert for us in the end of the event, Arwa Saleh. And this event also would not have been possible without the entire team, so a big thank you also to Eliza, Yelena, Tasneem, Michael and Nadi, who agreed to translate, but apparently it's not necessary. But thank you very much for being ready. We also thank Amaling House for providing us with this space for free of charge, and the donation box for the Amaling House, where is it? Does anybody know where the donation box for Amaling House is? Okay, so the donation box for Amaling House, this place that we're at, is here with the bears. Exactly. And there's another donation box which is there, which is, we announced that on the flyer that we're collecting donations for families in Lebanon that are in need, and I will say something about this also. And thank you very much, Benjamin Urbanek, for filming today's event. So the donations that we will collect during this event will go to the families of two martyrs from the Red Cross in Tyre, Yusuf Asaf and Hassan Badawi, as well as the paramedic Ali Najdi, who was severely injured last month. All of these three people are Lebanese Red Cross paramedics who were deliberately targeted by Israel as they were fulfilling their humanitarian duty. So the donation box that is over there, please consider donating what you can afford. Okay. So why did we decide to dedicate today's event to Lebanon? Those who followed the news over the last months may have noticed that Lebanon has largely disappeared from the international attention in the shadow of the US-Israeli war against Iran. I think one reason for that is that the war involving Iran immediately raises fears about like oil prices and global markets and the Strait of Hormuz and these kind of things that are directly affecting everyday's life in Europe and elsewhere, whereas Lebanon, on the other hand, is often treated as a distant humanitarian tragedy that does not seem to impact the global economy so strongly like Iran, and therefore receives less attention. At the same time, many people have become emotionally numb after 2.5 years of genocide in Gaza and ongoing crimes against humanity in the West Bank and across historic Palestine. So the news often passes us by without truly reaching us anymore. Just 3 weeks ago, the Israeli Knesset passed a law making death by hanging the standard punishment in military court, effectively only for Palestinian prisoners. Military courts dealing with Palestinian defendants have conviction rates of over 96% and systematically violate principles of due process. At the same time, Palestinians continue to be displaced from their land every single day while Israeli settlements continue expanding. So what Israel has been doing in Palestinian territories is now increasingly also being extended to Lebanon. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that Israel will destroy all houses in villages near the southern Lebanese border, saying explicitly that they would follow the Gaza model of Rafah and Beit Hanun. So the ceasefire agreed upon in November 2024 has proven, much like in Gaza, to be little more than empty words. The killing continued systematically, even during the so-called truce, and according to the Lebanese Health Ministry, 330 people were killed and 945 injured during this ceasefire, so-called ceasefire, as of November 2025. So tonight we want to create awareness that these are not just numbers and they're real lives like your and my life. I will say a little bit about the historical context, but of course the speakers will tell you more about that. So just to put it into context, modern Lebanon, much like much of the Swana region, was deeply shaped by European colonial powers after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and through agreements like Sykes-Picot in 1916, Britain and France divided the region according to their own strategic interests, separating lands that have historically, culturally, and economically always been connected. Bilad al-Sham, which includes Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, and Jordan. So Lebanon itself emerged under French mandate rule, and many aspects of its political system still carry this colonial legacy today. The confessional system, the division of political power according to religious affiliation, was shaped under the French influence and continues to structure Lebanese society and politics. Another major historical turning point was the Balfour Declaration in 1917, in which Britain declared support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, which was followed, of course, by the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, in the shadow of the Holocaust and the following Nakba, the violent displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that permanently transformed the region. So many Palestinians fled to Lebanon and to the neighboring countries, where they have often lived under extremely difficult conditions in refugee camps, many to this day. And the oldest refugee camp actually in Lebanon, Rashidiyah, I think it's called, perhaps even the oldest running refugee camp in the world, was originally built by the French for Armenian refugees in 1936. Today, April 24, by the way, is the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. Almost 100,000 Armenians escaped to Lebanon after the genocide, a genocide that Hitler actually famously referenced to justify his impending invasion of Poland, and said, "Who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians?" We do, just as we speak today of the attempted annihilations of Palestinians and land theft in Lebanon. In a decade, the old section of Rashidiyah, the refugee camp, will be 100 years old. Thinkers such as Hannah Arendt warned at the time that creating large populations of permanently displaced and stateless people would destabilize the whole region. Lebanon became and remains one of the countries most heavily burdened by these consequences. So over the decades, regional conflicts, foreign interventions, the instrumentalization of sectarian tensions, and the arming of different groups contribute to the Lebanese civil war that began in 1975. And too often this war is reduced to a mere religious conflict, although in reality it was deeply connected to colonial legacies and geopolitical interests, Cold War interventions, displacement, inequality, and the unresolved question of Palestine. And even today, Lebanon continues to carry an enormous burden. A country of 6 million inhabitants, around 6 million inhabitants, is simultaneously hosting millions of refugees from Palestine and Syria, while suffering from economic collapse, political paralysis, corruption, and recurring wars. So what is happening right now is anything but normal. The scale of destruction, displacement, and civilian suffering we are witnessing today is unprecedented in many ways. Entire communities have been uprooted, families have lost their homes, loved ones, and every sense of security. And yet people continue trying to resist destruction through solidarity, culture, community, and care for one another. Since the beginning of March 2026, between 1 and 1.2 million people in Lebanon have been displaced, around 1/6 of the country's total population. That is more than half of the population of Vienna, if you can imagine, like displacing half of the city that you live in. Around 2,000 people have been killed and 2,000 more injured, and thousands more injured. I think 7,500 people have been injured, including many children. Tens of thousands of homes have been destroyed or severely damaged, especially in the south of the country and parts of Beirut. Many families who returned during the ceasefire found their neighborhoods completely destroyed. Entire villages in southern Lebanon have been erased or heavily devastated. At the same time, statements by Israeli government officials increasingly go far beyond military objectives. For example, Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich openly spoke about annexing southern Lebanon up to the Litani River, while Defense Minister Israel Katz had already threatened Lebanon with territorial loss. Many observers see the current developments as a dangerous expansion of the violence and impunity already visible in the war on Gaza. For example, UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese has repeatedly warned that the systematic violation of international law creates new precedents and enables further escalation. But this did, of course, not begin only 2 years ago. The illegal occupation of Palestinian territories and the blockade of Gaza have existed for decades. So against this background, the threat of annexing Lebanese territory, much like the already annexed Syrian Golan Heights, appears to many as part of a longer regional expansionist policy enabled by the ongoing impunity granted to Israel. And yet, despite everything, many people continue returning to their villages in the south. They clear away rubble, rebuild their homes, and try to confront loss, fear, and destruction with steadfastness and dignity. So tonight is not about reducing this history to simplistic narratives or political slogans. It's about recognizing how deeply interconnected these histories are: colonialism, displacement, war, memory, and survival, and creating a space for dialogue and understanding.